My name is Emily. I'm 34, a data architect in Austin. It was 11:51 p.m. on a Tuesday when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother, Susan. The family has agreed. You are no longer part of this family. Do not call. Seconds later, my sister Megan hearted the message. Have you ever felt like the invisible one in your own family? Let me know your story down in the comments. I didn't text. Why I didn't call my father David begging him to intervene. I just stared at the little red heart. Megan had pressed a digital punctuation mark on my family exile. My reaction wasn't emotional. It was operational. I typed back 2 words. Got it? Then I got out of bed, walked to my desk, and opened my laptop. The clock read 11:53 p.m. I opened my bank's dashboard. My finances were meticulously organized. I had a group labeled Family Support, a name that now felt like a bitter joke. First, the mortgage. I was the one who had co-signed 5 years ago when my father lost his job, and I'd been making the payments ever since. $3,200 a month. The next payment was scheduled to go out in 36 hours. I clicked Manage Payments. I clicked Cancel Series. A little box popped up. Are you sure? I clicked Confirm. Next, the supplementary credit card I'd gotten from my mother Susan for emergencies. I opened the statement. $300 on groceries, fine. $400 on salon treatments. $200 on a spa day with Megan. This wasn't an emergency. It was a subscription. And I was canceling it. I clicked Card Services, then Lock Card, then Report Lost or Stolen. That was cleaner. It would decline instantly, no questions asked. Next, Megan's car insurance. She was on my policy because she'd had 2 DUIs and was uninsurable on her own. I clicked Remove Driver. The system warned me this would terminate her coverage immediately. Confirm. Finally, the tuition from Megan's latest passion project. She was going to be a certified life coach. She had convinced me it was a real career this time. I was halfway through paying the $8,000 tuition. The final payment, $4,000, was scheduled for Friday. I logged into the school's portal. Cancel payment schedule. I looked at the clock. 12:03 a.m. It took 12 minutes to financially divorce my entire family. I closed the laptop. The anger wasn't hot. It wasn't a fire. It was cold, like the blue light from the screen. This wasn't a breakdown. It was an audit. And they had failed. You need to understand, this wasn't cruelty. This was a balance sheet. And for the first time, I was forcing them to look at the numbers. I was the silent investor in the failing enterprise of my family. When my father David lost his job at the plant 5 years ago, he didn't tell anyone. He just let the foreclosure notices pile up on his desk. I was the one who found them during a visit. I was the one who paid $22,000 in back property taxes to stop the auction just 2 days before they lost the house. His response a grunt. Should have told me you had that kind of money. I was the one who paid off my mother's $9,000 credit card debt. She'd been loaning money to Megan for groceries and rent for a year, all on a 22% April. I paid it in full, and in return, I got a tearful phone call about how stressful it all was for her. And then there was Megan. My God, Megan. I had funded 3 of her failed startups. First, the artisanal jewelry line, which resulted in a box of unsold beads in their garage. Then the lifestyle blog, which required a $2,000 camera she sold 6 months later. Finally, the curated wellness subscription box, which ended after she failed to mail the first month's orders. I was The fixer. The responsible one. The emergency contact. The family. ATM. And for years, I let it happen. I know what you're thinking. Emily, why? Why did you keep paying? Why didn't you stop? You have to understand the psychology of the fixer. It's not weakness. It's a survival mechanism that's been beaten into you since childhood. When you grow up in chaos, you learn that your only value is your ability to create order. Your love is measured in problems solved. Your worth is calculated by how much you can endure. You become trapped in a prison that has no bars. It's a jail made of guilt obligation. And the desperate childish hope that if you just fix one more thing, if you just pay one more bill, if you just absorb one more crisis, this time they will finally see you. This time they will finally say, thank you. You are bound by invisible chains, forged from a lifetime of being told, Megan is just Megan. You're the strong one. They don't see that the strong one is just the one who learned to bleed quietly. My silence wasn't acceptance. It was a long, slow suffocation. That 1151 p.m. text wasn't an insult. It was a key. They didn't just kick me out. They unlocked the door. The retaliation began at 8 a.m. My phone rang, and I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. And again, on the fourth ring, I answered and put it on speakerphone. What did you do? Megan's voice was a shriek, thin and panicked. My car insurance was declined. I'm at the dealership trying to get my oil changed, and they said my policy was terminated. You have to fix this, Emily, right now. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't match her chaos. I just said, no. What do you mean, no? Just call them and turn it back on. I have to get to my yoga class. I'm no longer paying for it, Megan. I said, my voice as calm as a flatline. You'll have to get your own policy. I'm hanging up now. You can't just. I clicked end. My phone buzzed almost instantly. A text message from my mother, Susan. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't, what's going on, or can we talk? It was a command. Emily, you have created a terrible mess. Megan is hysterical and you've put her in a dangerous position. We need to talk about what you've done. You need to call us immediately and fix this. Fix this. I stared at that phrase. They weren't shocked by their own cruelty. They were shocked that I'd stopped playing my part. They still saw me as the fixer, the one who was supposed to absorb the chaos, not create it. And that's when I finally understood. In our family, there were two roles. Megan was the golden child. She was all potential, all flash. The one who was meant to be celebrated. The one who deserved things simply for existing. I was the black sheep. Or rather, the workhorse. The one who was born to be sensible, responsible, and stable. The one who was meant to be useful. My role wasn't just to be quiet, it was to fund her shine. The money I earned, the success I achieved, was never really seen as mine. It was just a resource for the family, a utility meant to be funneled to the one who truly mattered. Megan wasn't just spoiled. She operated with the absolute, unshakable entitlement of someone who genuinely believed she deserved every dollar I spent on her. Her screaming at me about the insurance wasn't the anger of a person who'd been wronged. It was the baffled confusion of someone discovering the light switch suddenly stopped working. She wasn't mad that I'd cut her off. She was baffled that the appliance me had suddenly inexplicably stopped functioning. They didn't see me as a daughter. They saw me as a utility. And I had just cut the power. I didn't respond to my mother's text. I didn't answer when Megan called me sobbing 20 minutes later. Arguing with them was pointless. It was like trying to balance a checkbook during an earthquake. You can't use logic in a system built on chaos. So I made a different call. Jenna, I said when she picked up. Jenna and I had survived data structures in college together. Now, she was one of the most ruthless family law attorneys in the state. Emily, she said, her voice warm, this doesn't sound like a happy hour call. I need to hire you, I said. I explained the 1 p.m. text. I explained the canceled payments, and then I started forwarding her the documentation I'd been collecting for 5 years. I need you to draft a formal demand letter, I said, my voice as steady as my hand. A notice of intent to collect. Send it to David, Susan, and Megan. I want them to see the numbers. What numbers exactly? The $22,000 for the property taxes, the $9,000 for Susan's credit card, the $2,000 for Megan's camera, the $4,000 for the life coach certification, the $1,500 for her artisanal jewelry supplies. I kept listing. I had every receipt, every Venmo transaction, every bank transfer. For 10 minutes, I just listed the numbers. When I was done, there was a long silence on the other end. Jenna said, and the warmth was gone, replaced by something sharp. This is staggering. You've been their primary source of income. I've been their fool, I said. Send the letter. I want it to be calm, factual, and lethal. Consider it done, she said. I'll pull the property records too, just to be thorough. I'll call you back. I hung up and went to work. I spent the day in meetings analyzing data sets. I felt a strange, cold calm. The family texts had stopped. The panic had likely set in. Jenna called back at 4 p.m. Her voice was different. It wasn't angry anymore. It was cold. Emily, this just got a lot worse. What do you mean? Did they respond? No, she said. I was reviewing the probate records from your grandmother's estate, the inheritance that paid for your college. Yeah. What about it? There was a second disbursement. It happened 4 years ago after you'd already graduated. A final payout to you. I frowned. I never received a second payment. I know, Jenna said. The bank records show it was withdrawn in cash 2 days after it was deposited. $50,000. My blood went cold. What are you saying? I'm saying, Jenna said, her voice very slow and very clear, that the signature on the withdrawal form is not yours. I've cross-referenced it with your driver's license and your passport, but it is a very good imitation of your mother's handwriting. I sat down. My heart was pounding a thick, slow thud. $50,000. It wasn't a family dispute anymore. It wasn't about being ungrateful. It wasn't about debt. It was a felony. A week passed. The silence from their end was absolute. No angry texts, no voicemails, no calls from blocked numbers. They had received Jenna's demand letter, and for the first time in their lives, they had no leverage. Then, on Saturday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was my mother, Susan, standing alone on my doorstep. She wasn't the same woman who had texted me 11 days ago. The anger was gone, replaced by a gray, hollow exhaustion. Her eyes were red and swollen. I opened the door. She didn't try to push past me. She just stood there looking defeated. Emily, please, she whispered. Her voice was raw. The bank? They're foreclosing. The notices came. I said nothing. Your father. He's a broken man. You've broken him. Please, Emily, I know we made a mistake, but you can't let this happen. Do something. She was still doing it, still seeing me as the one to fix the problems they created. Do something for your sister, she finally choked out. The real priority finally surfacing. She'll be homeless. Kenneth will leave her. She has nothing. I looked at her, my mother, and I felt nothing. No pity, no anger, just the quiet click of a lock falling into place. I already did do something, Mom, I said. My voice was calm. I stepped back, picked up an envelope from my hall table, and handed it to her. She fumbled with it, her hands shaking. Is this money? Did you fix it? No, I said. That's a copy of the criminal complaint we filed with the district attorney's office. The one for the $50,000 forgery. She looked up, her face white. The DA's office is very interested in that signature, I said. Jenna tells me they're calling it elder financial abuse, since you were technically a co-trustee of Grandma's estate. That's a felony. She started to hyperventilate. Emily? No, you wouldn't. You were right, Mom, I said, my hand on the doorknob. We're done. Goodbye, Mom. I closed the door, engaged the deadbolt, and walked away. To avoid criminal prosecution for forgery, they settled. There was no negotiation. Jenna handled the terms. They would sign a quit-claim deed, transferring full ownership of the house I had been paying for all along, directly to me. In exchange, I would inform the district attorney's office that the matter had been resolved as a family and I would not be participating in their criminal case. They signed the papers within an hour. I listed the house the next day. It sold in a week for cash in a market hungry for inventory. The money, a significant six-figure sum, was wired directly into my savings account. That night, I sat at my desk and opened the one file I had meticulously updated for 10 years. The spreadsheet I called Family Ledger.xlsx. Every line item was there. The $22,000 for the property taxes, the $9,000 for Susan's credit card, the endless draining payments for Megan's failed dreams, and, at the bottom, the $50,000 forged withdrawal. I stared at the grand total. This wasn't a family album. It was a balance sheet of my own suffering. Then I highlighted the entire file. My finger hovered over the key. I pressed delete. The peace that washed over me wasn't the hot, sharp thrill of revenge. It was the quiet, cold calm of a ledger finally being balanced. And in that moment, I understood the difference between two kinds of justice. There's the justice of the punisher, which looks backward. It's focused on the crime, on the pain, on making the guilty party suffer. But there is a different, stronger justice. The justice of the sower. It doesn't look back, it looks forward. It doesn't care about the ashes. It only cares about what you can plant in them. My family was terrified of the justice of punishment, of losing their house, of public shame, of jail. I was done with that. My victory wasn't in their destruction. It was in my creation. The next day, I took the full amount from the sale of that house and wired it to a new account. It's called the Unseen Woman Scholarship Fund. The money from their betrayal will now pay for the education of women in technology. Women who, like me, were told they weren't the priority. That night, I slept. For the first time in years, I slept all the way through till morning. No guilt, no noise, just quiet. My story is over. But now, I want to hear yours. Have you ever had to choose between your family and your own peace? Let me know your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, share it. You never know who else needs to hear that it's okay to finally delete the spreadsheet.